Hello again. Here we are, the spirit of watercolor, and today I want to talk about the principle less is more that you have heard in paint and art worlds, and I'm sure many people wonder, like I have, what does this really mean? And how do we apply it to our art? Okay, so what I want to do today is talk about like 5 different ways that less is more in watercolor. Okay, so I want to talk about first of all mixing our colors, our paint. Okay, now with watercolors, mixing of course is part of using our tubes of paint and mixing them on the palette to get the colors we want, right? And you can use just, a few tubes of paint to create all the colors in the rainbow, right? Your yellow, reds, blues, and maybe a black, maybe a white. Some people don't use either and mix these colors to create them. But what I wanted to say today is that I often use tubes, now that there's so many. Like if you look at Daniel Smith paints, which I've used forever, hope you've heard of them. They can be, there's so many colors that you almost could use them straight out of the tube. And one of the things that I have discovered, okay, is that the less colors you mix, okay, so if you use a lot of different colors to mix together, it tends to go toward what we call the muddy colors. You lose the bright luminosity of the watercolors and they become duller. So this is the first principle of less is more. The less we mix, okay, the more beautiful colors we have. So, if you're mixing a blue and a yellow, say to get a green, that's fine. But you don't need to mix a lot of different colors. So just keeping it simple, okay? So let's make sure that we take our paints and we either, if you have a color that you can use straight out of the tube, there's, like I say, a plethora of paint colors you can buy now. And I do that. I love them straight out of the tube, the rich, vibrant, beautiful colors that you can get. And what this allows too is that your paintings will stay brighter and more vibrant too, as a whole. When we use really gorgeous tube colors, they just come right out on the paper and they're intense and beautiful, okay? And when you start to mix them, again, that color kind of goes down toward a less intense, beautiful, bright, luminous is the word, because we are using transparent colors mostly. Some watercolors are less transparent than others, but overall they're transparent, and there's this luminous glow that we get that you just have to experience if you have been using other paint mediums. Watercolor is unique in this way, so it's worth trying. Now, that's the first principle, okay? Now, the second one that I want to talk about, where less is more, is about when we paint. If we use a lot of water, okay, you tend to water down your colors. What you want to do to keep intense, rich, I'm trying to find another example for you, intense, beautiful colors, what you want to do is you want to bring in, less water and more concentration of color. This isn't as vibrant as I'd like, but it is beautiful colors, which these ones are Primatex, so they're more mineral based, so they don't have that intensity, of some of the other colors. But I want to make sure my light's good. Yeah, they when you add less water and let these paints flow onto the, some wet paper, let the paper wet, and then just let it kind of, you know, set up for a minute, and then bring your concentrated colors, lots of paint on our palette. Okay, we want to make sure we really load these palettes. See how this is sort of getting where I don't have as much paint here. You want to keep reloading these palette pockets and get these paints highly concentrated on there. I have another palette here that might even show more what I like to do. So I might even put it on this, the lid of this John Pike palette, which I love these palettes. This is my main palette, and I do keep a lot of paint on this because the more I put out on the palette part here, the stronger the colors, the more rich and beautiful. And you just put them on and they are beautiful, and your painting is alive with color, as opposed to, you know, the watered down. I mean, pastel, if that's what you want in a painting, that's totally fine and wonderful. It's just that sometimes they get washed out. So we want to talk about that brightness, okay? So that's the second principle, okay? Now, I'm just looking at some of my older paintings while I'm thinking about these. Less is more. Also, when you say you do less of something, it creates more of something wonderful in watercolor. So I'm just mentioning that, re-mentioning that. The third principle I want to talk about is, you know, the controlling issue, where, you know, if you use you know, smaller brushes than you should, you can't just get that paint on and let it flow. For example, this is quite a flowy, you know, just letting those paints flow across the paper, okay? And in doing this, I took the nice large flat brush that you've probably seen in my prior videos, and you just bring it across and you just get that information on without a lot of stroking with the smaller brushes. Or you can stroke too much with a large brush too. It's just that with the larger brushes, I also have large rounds. You've seen, look at my prior videos if you haven't, and you'll see that the large brushes get the information down. You can use them even on these small paintings, okay? And especially on the large ones, because you'll get that information on the paper, whether it be a pointed round that's big or a flat that's, you know, going to cover a flat wash of the sky or whatever it is. So the thing is that when you labor, you overwork the painting. It gets too strokey. It starts to look labored. It starts to lose the beauty of the flow of the paints, okay? And they do their own thing, which can be so exciting. So we want to think about that as our third principle, okay? There's two more. Okay. So let's think about this again. Less of certain things that we do with watercolor that create more of a beautiful, rich, exciting painting. Okay. One thing that I've talked about in prior videos, and I'm sure you've seen it, but I want to repeat it, is that we don't always want to use our brushes. So I'm going to say less brushes, because we have things like sponges and palette knives and what else do we have? Oh, we can spatter the paint with our spray bottle. Where's my spray bottle? Let me grab that just because it's good to have visuals. Okay, my spray bottle here, to push the paint around or spray the paint to, you know, the paper and then pour the paint on the top of it. Those are ways where we get, again, the more of the watercolor, the more exciting, the more interesting types of things that we have. And then these sponges, you know, when you press, you know, you can create a tree or texture on the ground. Palette knives we've used to make rocks and mountains, and you can do other things with these, okay, beside what I'm telling you, but it's just that we should just remember that we have the non-brush techniques. There's also a whole video on that of other non-brush techniques, so please go to that and watch it, because sometimes these things create much more vibrant and less labored, or how do I say that, more random, look more like nature, you know, natural in nature in your works, where we often get where, you know, you're trying to make all these tiny little leaves or stars or whatever it is, and it just gets too symmetrical or too perfect, as opposed to that random glorious effect. Okay, so yeah. Sedimentary paints also, I've done a whole video on the different kinds of paints, or videos, and the sedimentation can create the little little bits of sand on the ground, or the speckles on the rocks, things that you don't have to sit there and do in that labored fashion, again, that overworking with the brushes. So again, the non-brush techniques are amazing for what they can do for your watercolors. I know there's one more. Okay, I think the other less is more is less trying to create detail, okay? Because oftentimes, this is a very loose, you know, sort of trees and sky type thing here that I was just a sketch. And if you look at that, the paints did so much of this work for me, okay? And instead of trying to create every tree and to, you know, every cloud, you know, it's just letting the paints, you know, where I don't put paint, like, okay, here's the other thing, the less is more, is the sky is white. So we have a whole video on white, and a lot of ways to just keep white in your paper is with not painting in certain areas of the painting, and that will just be the white. That's a way of using less paint. So, but also less information, you know, less of my painting in a cloud per se, or painting in a tree here. So, but letting the wet on wets and the techniques do the work for us. So that's the fifth one. So, and if there's more, I will bring those up in another video, but this was just something I've been thinking about a lot today, is, you know, getting the most out of our painting watercolors is oftentimes by doing less of something. So I hope you enjoyed this video. It was kind of just on my mind, and I wanted to kind of point these things out because I think they make our work actually more fun, easier, and more rewarding, and you'll love your work more success. So again, these are just thoughts about less is more in terms of watercolor painting. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please like and subscribe, and if you would please, I would really appreciate you continuing these videos with me, and we'll move now into some more simple, fun, a little shorter videos where we just kind of try, you know, a tip or a trick or a technique, something just to boost your watercolors, okay, to get them more up to a professional and successful look. Okay, so I'll see you soon. Keep coming back. Bye.